Hi guys, and welcome to Brave Dog Training Online. Today we're going to talk about if it's okay for our dogs to ask for our attention or for treats or for anything. So have fun. Alright, so very often when I start training with a client and there is some kind of problematic outside, we start with an attention signal or an attention cue or voluntary attention or stuff like that. So we try to get the dog more attentive to the owner. And very often what happens is the dog picks up very quickly what we want and he starts turning around very often and asking for attention or for treats, because if we train that with treats, the dog knows, oh, if I do that, I will get something yummy. And of course, he does it more and more often. And what I see very often is an owner that gets a little concerned or even fearful because the dog is now controlling them and making them to a food robot or whatever. And they are concerned that now the dog is deciding when food is happening. And that's really weird. Because this fear of our dogs controlling us is totally useless. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the dog, it doesn't help the owner, it doesn't help, I don't know, the surroundings or the whatever, the environment. It doesn't help anybody. And it really doesn't matter if your dog is asking you for stuff. It doesn't mean that you are less of a leader or that your dog will now, I don't know, take over the world or tell you what to do all the time because now the dog is in charge. No, what the hell? No, your dog is simply learning that paying attention to you is something nice. And of course, your dog wants more of that. And if it gets too intense and you don't want it that much, then you can just switch from food to a less valuable reward, like just telling your dog, you're a good boy. Yeah, verbal praise. Or you can just look around and see why your dog is not interested in the surroundings. Maybe the place where you walk your dog is not that interesting. And of course, we start training in an environment that is very distraction free. And your dog will therefore not have that much to do except what we want. And yes, your dog will start asking more and more and more because the surroundings aren't that interesting. But if you take your dog to an environment that is very rich in stimuli or a little richer in stimuli, because you should only increase how hard your training is little by little. And so you take your dog to a more interesting place and your dog will sniff around and stuff like that, and he will not ask for your attention that much. Maybe not at all. So you have to introduce it to your dog again. And the other thing that could be the reason for your dog constantly asking for whatever reward you gave him is because the reward is simply too good. And yes, when you start training, you can use very, very high value rewards and most of the time treats. But if you see that these treats are more interesting to your dog than anything else, then you know, okay, this is something that I can use when things get really, really difficult, or when I want a behavior to work extremely well, like a recall. And this is something that is very great to learn because sometimes we need those high value treats. And as I said before, it's really no big deal if your dog tries to get your attention. And yes, it's a different story if that happens inside and your dog's constantly following you around and constantly trying to get your attention. But then you have a different problem because that's a dog who hasn't really learned how to relax or how to engage with himself or how to do stuff on his own, and he can learn that, but that's really something totally different. So yeah, no worries if your dog starts to ask for your attention or for treats outside. And to be honest, a dog can use anything, any behavior to get your attention. And the question always is, if your dog is showing a lot of attention seeking behavior, why does he have the need to do that? Is he bored out of his mind and the only thing he has in his life is you, and the only, yeah, enrichment stuff and things like that only happens with you, so he doesn't know how to, yeah, busy himself or how to do stuff on his own, and therefore he constantly needs you. And you have trained your dog to do things, tricks and behaviors, and everything that was rewarding for your dog can be used as attention seeking behavior. And yes, sometimes dogs do that with very annoying behavior, like Sammy. I don't know, I have made a mistake in training or in day-to-day life, and I don't really know when that happens because he gets very excited when I start filming videos. And of course, that's the moment when he wanted attention. And his way of showing that was to start whining very, very loudly. So maybe you have heard it in one of the videos, and that was extremely annoying. Very, very extremely annoying. And so, of course, I had to get him to stop. But I didn't just forbid him to do that because there was a need behind it, and he was doing that because he was excited. So, of course, first he didn't get the attention for the behavior anymore. And as soon as I knew I will start filming a video, he would get something to busy himself with, like a food toy or a bone or something like that. So he would have something else to do. And the behavior stopped because there was no longer a necessity for him to do that. And but that's something that I really just didn't want at all. I don't need whining in any situation. And that's also why I wouldn't train my dog to bark on cue or whatever, because I just don't really like barking that much, and I don't want my dog to get the idea of barking would get him a reward. But with the whining, it's the same thing. And yes, if a behavior is really annoying, then yes, you can just train your dog not to do that anymore. or do something else. But if it's something like your dog just looking at you, who cares? And if you have a lot more difficulties on your walk together with your dog, then get to the description, grab a free guide for a nice walk. And if you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, why don't you write me in the comments what your dog does to get your attention, and if that's annoying to you or if you're fine with it. I would love to read those. I wish you an amazing time with your dog and have fun with the free guide. Until next time, bye!